Well, you get up here and you don't have a hammer. That ain't right. Yeah, that's wonderful. Not only do I not have my hammer, I don't have any nails. It looks good when you get done. Oh, hey y'all. Some of you might be wondering, what am I doing? What you may see down there on that end, I've started putting this ash lap siding on, and I needed some blocking to go in there, something to nail to. So this is basically what you call lap siding. Now, these pieces are 7 inches wide, and I've decided I'm doing an 1.25 inch lap, so that's leaving 5 3/4 reveal. It's going to shrink, it's going to move, it's going to do some things, but hopefully it's going to stay on there. I started just to stop right there and let that sit a couple of days, because it won't take but a couple of days for it to dry out, and just see how it does. But I feel so good about it, I'm just going to carry on. And now, something, you probably know this, but I'll just throw it out there. If you're doing something like this with post, what you want to do obviously is keep it level. But if you'll measure that, if you got a good level point, like in my case, I know that the top of my beam is level. So I just measure down from the top of the beam down to that point. I've got a mark on that post and a mark on that post. So I'll just go up the same distance, and then that ripped piece there is 2 5/8, and it will carry on. With lap siding, you have to make some accommodations from time to time because you're dealing with rough solid material, and that's okay. It looks good when you get done. So that's where we're at. I think I'm to the point now to where I'm gonna fill in this post section, bring it up to there, bring that piece on down, fill in that section, then the beam. But it may not be today. I think my wife's wanting me to take her out for a Waffle House, get an egg or something, I don't know. Anyway, we'll get a little bit done. Making sure not to let my board move. And we'll cut that. Now, I don't know if you can see it from where you're at, but there's also a little mark right there and a little mark right there. That's 1.25 inches down, and that's where the next piece will go. So if you had a level line on it, it would look something like that. So the next piece will go right there on those marks. Hold it steady, don't let it move. If you've ever cut any material that's got a little cup in it, you know it wants to put a bind on your blade. I don't have any secret weapons of how to do it. Just keep a good firm grip on your saw and stay true to your line and go for it. Maybe you could hear the sound of that trying to bind. Or maybe you couldn't, I don't know. Now, the way I'm putting this on, the cup is like this, and I'm putting the cup against the wall. If you do it like that, it's going to continue to cut. Well, that's my thinking. And there's no right or wrong way to nail. You know, you can conceal nail. Conceal nailing would be nailing up here, and then your next one laps over it, and you just nail at the top. But because this stuff is so green, and going to move so much, I'm nailing it top and bottom. Now you might be wondering about that end. I'm probably going to put some trim pieces over the top of the, I don't know, but we'll see. On the mark. Mark it, cut it, drill it, fasten it, next piece, repeat and repeat. And somebody may be asking, what kind of toy am I using to hammer with? I'm using this as a tribute to my mom. This was her hammer. It's a Bluegrass, a 13 ounce. Of course, you know, your hammer should be the size of whatever fasteners you're using, and I'm using a little bitty fastener, so I'm using a little bitty hammer. But I've always enjoyed, I use this hammer in finish work for a long time. I've always enjoyed using this hammer. Well, the kid's gonna call it a day. Probably have that done about another hour. But it won't be today because we gotta go get the waffle. Well, good morning. It was 26 degrees on the thermometer. So it's a nice fresh day today, but beautiful blue sky. I think it's supposed to be 55. Hope your weather's good where you're at. And if not, I hope the good Lord's providing you what you need to stay warm and dry and fed. Before I get going this morning though, I need to answer a few questions. Let me cover 3 or 4 things that maybe will explain a little bit about how I'm doing this. First of all, you may say, well, you can drive a nail faster with a bigger hammer. You're absolutely right. But you know, I'm not getting paid to do this. This is not a working job. I guess you might say I'm reminiscing about the days of old when carpentry was carpentry. And it's just fun building stuff. You know? The second thing I want to cover that probably somebody's going to ask, why don't you use you got compound miter saws, why don't you just use a miter saw to make your cuts? Yeah, you're exactly right. I'll tell you what, there's so few cuts involved in this, where it honestly would take me longer to get the miter saw out here and set up than it would be just to take my circular saw and make it. If you had a question about that, that's the answer for that. Not necessary. A third question, well, I don't know what the third question is, but when I think of it as we get started, if I think of it, I'll bring it back to you. All right, I do need to get to work though. I will give you a little pro tip. When you're doing lap siding, if you'll make your marks and your cuts from the back side, if you're using a circular saw, then you'll be able to finish out that cut and it won't show on the face side. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I was able to go just a little bit past my line, and then when I come across, it'll be finished. And there we go. That's looking pretty slick. And get this other end brought up, and then I'll be ready to rock and roll. Here's a little pro tip. Never leave anything on top of your ladder that you're crawling up and down. I was helping a fella. He wasn't a carpenter, he was a homeowner. He wanted me to help him build a tree house. So I went down, was helping him build a tree house. He left my 4-foot level laying on top of the ladder. I went and grabbed that ladder. That level came down. The end of it hit me right above the eye. Laid my head open. Just don't ever leave anything up there. Now that's secured, but you know what I'm saying. I think I may have showed you, I'm not sure. I'm using an 1.5 inch hot dip galvanized ring shank nails. They're not very big, but they hold pretty good. But in case anybody remembered, I put camber in this truss, and the camber's still there. I don't know if this chalk line has enough line in it to reach that far or not. Well, I'll just shoot straight with you, and I usually do. The thing that's so exciting to me is, just a few days ago, there was some logs that were laying in the woods. My neighbor was wanting them moved because he had to drop them on his next door neighbor's yard. We got them out of the woods, pulled them out. The tree had been cut for probably a year. Now these logs, they were limb logs, so you would expect them to have a whole lot of stress and stuff in them, and a lot of knots and whatever. But they were up off the ground, fortunately, and I think that's what saved them. So a few days after that, a few days ago, I don't remember exactly, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, I guess it is, maybe 6. We put them on this Woodland Mills bandsaw, used a lap siding attachment, and made some lap siding out of them. They're ash. Taking on the mission here of cutting this ash and putting it on the front of this mill, just, you know, to doll it up a little bit, this sawmill shed. And I don't have it trimmed out or anything yet, but just wanted to show you what the lap siding looked like. I'm almost definitely going to be putting a fascia up there on the ends of those, so that'll be coming up. But I think it turned out right nice. Now I got a question for you. Should I stain this? What would you do? Would you leave it natural? Would you stain it? I'm leaning toward just leaving it natural because it's going to weather dark, but some of you might think it needs some weather treatment on it. I don't know. It's got a pretty good overhang on it. It's not going to get much wet. It is more than likely it's going to dry and it's going to have a bunch of splits and stuff in it, but I've tried to nail it pretty good to where it'll at least stay up there, you know what I'm saying? So friend, that's going to do it for this video and for this work today. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate your support, and good Lord willing, I'll see you in the next one.